Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Here's a story about a man named Brady. Got the Brady Bunch song doing loops for free in my head. Became the Brady Bunch. Do, do, do. The Brady Bunch. Good morning, Kitty Q. Oh, shoot. Loud noise. Forgot to turn on the volume. Hold on. Sorry. Good morning, Kitty Q. I forgot that I had changed the volume down, so I was doing a mic check earlier. Oops. So how is Kitty Q? I hope you had a terrific week. I am back from vacation. It was most part very relaxing. Weather didn't cooperate all the time that I was gone, but I'm feeling recharged and clear-headed. I needed that. Good morning, Callie Lisa. Good morning, good morning, good morning to both of you. I hope you both had a terrific week. You're doing good. That's good. Good. Glad that you're doing great. Gayla. Good day, Will, and everyone. Good day to you as well, Gayla. I didn't make it down to California. I started my vacation near Oregon, Portland, Oceanside, Seaside, Oregon. And I worked my way up the Pacific coast, all the way up Washington State to the peninsula, went over to Vancouver, and then from Vancouver came back down, and then ended up in Bellingham, Washington, before I then drove back down to Centralia, Chehalis, Washington. Ivory Lady. Good morning, Ivory Lady. But for the most part, the vacation, was great. Let's see, first day I left, I got there. I mean, I didn't get there one day. I could have, but I had friends I wanted to see in Wenatchee, so I stopped in Wenatchee first, and then went from Wenatchee to Seaside. Is where I stayed the second night of my vacation. Then I went from there. Then I went to Ocean Shores, and then I went and just kind of just wandered as I wanted to. I didn't have any plans. I didn't even book hotel rooms or anything. I just kind of drove, and it was like, hey, there's something of interest. Pulled over, walked around town, saw something, got something to eat. Try to find the mom and pop kind of restaurants to eat at. Found some really good ones. I wish I would have wrote a list down of all the different ones that I made it to, but I didn't. But there are some really good restaurants out there. Independent. Not I stayed away from chain restaurants, and I wanted to kind of hit the places that the locals would go to have a cup of coffee or to have breakfast or lunch or dinner, whatever. Pippadot. Good morning, Pippadot. Good morning and welcome to this morning's Blunders, Balderdash, and Questions. I hope you had a terrific week. Remember to be at all messages or live messages, not top. Very true, Kitty Q. But as I was saying, so after I made it to Bellingham, I then made it to Centralia, Chehalis, Washington, and we played in the golf tournament. It's an individual; it's not a team golf tournament. It's individuals. I didn't win it this year. I ended up fourth out of 22. There were 22 men in the same division. and I ended up fourth. My friend Tim, for those who know my friend Tim, he beat me by one stroke. He ended up in third. It came down to the last two holes. We both parred it, and then he parred it, and I got a bogey. So he beat me by one stroke. And good, congratulations to Tim. But I had fun though. I got to relax, got to see some friends. That was always nice. I wish that, I mean, the temperature was perfect compared to where here. I mean, if I would have stayed here, it would have been 110, 112 all week that I was gone. I was dealing with 65, 70, partly cloudy skies. So that was nice. Four out of 22 isn't bad. No, I've done better. I've also done a lot worse. Golfing. It's just I only get to play this golf course once a year, and I didn't get to get in a practice round beforehand to know how fast the greens were going to play. But everybody was kind of going into a blind, except for those who live locally, who in that area or can get over to it more. But I had fun. All right, let's get into Blunders Balderdash and questions. This is the third episode of Blunders Balderdash and Questions. Welcome to the show where I boldly tackle all my past blunders, bizarre questions, and internet chaos. Because why keep it my dignity when I can turn it into content? I'll be diving into the wildest stuff I've been asked, some serious, some strange, and some that make me wonder if the internet is okay. These gems come from YouTube comments, live streams, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, currently known as Confusing, and even a few brave souls who have emailed me like it's 2007. With that said, let's get into the first one. The first question is, are you real? I believe I'm real. I don't know how else to take this. The question was, asked to me in an email. That was all they said. Are you real? I think I am, but I'm not 100%. Maybe I am a cyborg. You tell me. I believe I'm real. I think of as real as possibly can get. I don't hold anything back. I try to be as transparent, but I don't know why they asked the question, are you real? Maybe they had context to it and they just didn't tell me. I don't know. Next one. What is the difference between murder and killing? Well, besides the spelling of the two words, they're basically the same thing. You murder someone, you're killing them. You're ending a life. But yeah, spelling, letters, alphabet, grammar, I guess. Well, depends on how you use it. Did I have to pinch myself to see if I was real? No. No, I didn't have to pinch myself. But that was all the context they gave me. Are you real? So next one. And before I go into all these, some of them do have bad grammar or spelling. I should point that out. You have to understand that some people, English is not their first language. And I have viewers all over the world. So if there are grammatical errors or spelling errors, I didn't correct them. I just printed them out as they are. So for in the future, I will correct the actual spellings and grievous errors in grammar. Okay, but I didn't do it this time. So the next one is, How did they know she was dead? Did they check with DNA? Did they check with DNA? Well, I think that in this question, unfortunately, they the question was about Christopher Watts and Shannon. How did they know Shannon was dead? Did they check with DNA? Well, they didn't need to in this context. How did they know she was dead? She was buried in a hole in the ground, wrapped up in a top sheet. Very much kind of hard to be alive. And I'm sure somebody somewhere along the line probably, had to, do a precursory, check to see if she had a pulse or something along those lines. But did they check with DNA? That DNA didn't have to come into it because she was still very identifiable. But if it was somebody else and the body had been gone for an awfully long time and decomposition had set in, maybe they'd have to use DNA. But in the case of Shannon, how did they know she was dead? Circumstances of how her body was found, and DNA did not have to come into play. Next one. What made him want to kill her? Was she a pretty woman or average? I get questions like this quite a bit. Some variation of this question is asked a lot. Was she, something that she was wearing? Was she dressed to the nines when he killed her and that's why he targeted her? Some variation of this question. I get asked an awful lot. Was she pretty or was she average? It doesn't matter if she was pretty or if she was average or what you'd consider pretty or what you consider average. Murder is murder. And when it comes to, you know, serial killers, which I cover an awful lot here, uh, they have a MO, a individuals they're looking for that meets a certain type. Maybe they have, like in Ted Bundy's situation, they had long hair, they're slender, they're either that or professional looking. They have a type that they're looking for. It doesn't, maybe they consider them pretty. Maybe they consider them, they don't consider beauty at all. And they're killing them because they're vulnerable. They can get them in a vulnerable situation. And it has nothing to do with beauty at all. But again, I get some variation of that question an awful lot, particularly when it comes to how did he pick them? Why did he pick them? Did he pick them because they were pretty and they were dressed nice? Is that why? And not just about Ted Bundy, but about others as well. Other people who've killed others individuals. But I do get that a lot. Next one. Why can't police just use DNA to solve all cases? Are they that lazy? Think about that for a second. Why can't police just use DNA to solve all the cases? Are they that lazy? Where are they going to get the DNA from? Right? They find a body, and they can get DNA from it then. What's the DNA going to tell them? It's going to tell them that this is the individual. Maybe they can do scrapings underneath the fingernails, and they could possibly get DNA of the perpetrator. If the perpetrator's not in the system, all they have is DNA that doesn't link to anyone. So, yeah, that was a comment on question about Samuel Little and his victims. Why do the cops, are they just lazy because they're not using DNA in every case? Well, DNA hasn't been around forever also. So And it was DNA around when Samuel Little started killing? Oh, heck no, it wasn't. For the probably approximately, I'd say I'm just shooting a ballpark figure here. Probably about the first 20 years of Samuel Little's murder sprees across the nation. There was no DNA. They had blood evidence, and they could match it. Okay, this is O positive, this is O negative, or whatever. They could do that. And when they had hair, they kind of compared to, but a lot of that turned out to be, junk pseudoscience, if you want. But DNA hasn't been around forever, though. So, yeah, it's not because the police are lazy. Trust me, they want to catch the perpetrator. Next one. You know a lot. What's your secret? What's my secret? I'm obsessed with murder and people who kill people for whatever the reason may be. That before I ever got really into true crime at all, I was obsessed with the psychology behind why one individual would ever get to the point where they would consider or commit a murder. And then the psychology behind once they've killed one individual, why would they kill a second, third, fourth, fifth, 25th, or in Samuel Little's case, since I just talked about him, 98, 97 individuals, maybe over 100. What makes them want to continue to do it? That is a question that I've always wondered, and the psychology behind it has always made me curious. I know a lot. I guess pretty much. I've been obsessed with some type of the psychology behind what makes people do things, not just murder either. What makes someone motivated to want to work harder than everyone else, even though they're never going to get an advancement, they're not going to make more money, but they're going to work harder at it and they're going to do a better job. What makes that person psychologically more motivated to do the work than others? And you can use the psychology and think about that in every aspect of life. What makes someone want to work a full-time job, a part-time job, and then volunteer for within their community to make their community better? The psychology behind that. I've always been interested and somewhat obsessed about that. And then when I got into true crime, it just carries over. But next one. Can serial killers be cured of their sickness to kill? Obviously, see, they are their sickness to kill. Can they be cured? Well, they can be stopped. Can you cure someone of a mental illness? Some mental illnesses can be cured, and I put that in quotes. But can a serial killer be cured? Most of them, I would say a good 99.5% of the ones that I know of, no. Even if you got them into, therapy, and you gave them a litany of drugs, you can't cure them. It's a sickness. There is a whole slew of things, in the background that makes someone get to that point, which again, going back to psychology, makes them a killer or gets them to that point. But I don't know of a single serial killer that has ever been cured or one that I would trust to have my neighbor live next door to me. Next one. Blunder. The date was August 13th, 2018, not August 12th, like you said. That was an email that was sent to me. And yes, I had to go back through several, about a dozen different YouTube videos and live streams about Christopher Watts and the Watts family murders to find the reference to that. It helped that I actually emailed that person back and asked, where did I say this? And they are correct. I did say the 12th, but I was at the time that I said that. Yeah, obviously it was a mistake. We know it was the 13th now, but I was, in my mind, I was like, when did he kill Shannon? Was it early before midnight or after midnight? And then the girls on the 13th. But yes, technically I was wrong. So that is my blunder. But thank you for pointing that out, though. And I have since took that tiny little 3-second little clip out of that video, and so it's not there anymore. So the next 290,000 people or 400,000 that watch it will not hear me say August 12th. Next one. That's not a kite, bro. You're full of shit. Yeah. All right. This pertains to the YouTube Shorts video that I released earlier this week about the kite, Brian Kohlberger, and him filling out what's called a kite in the prison system there in the state of Idaho to complain about the fact that other inmates are being mean to him all the time. They're yelling, everything that they can think of, about what they're going to do to him sexually if they get a hold of him, and what if they're going to do to his backside, and blah blah blah. They're mentally torturing him. What is a kite? I reached out to my friend because I didn't know what the request form was called and what they would call it in the actual prison system in the state of Idaho at the Idaho State Penitentiary, where Brian Kohlberger is. And my friend doesn't work in the state of Idaho in corrections. He works at Walla Walla State Prison in Walla Walla, Washington. So I asked him, since he's an active, corrections officer, that was my only contact. He told me that in the prison system, it's called a kite. It's a note that they hand to the corrections officer or CO. And this is what he told me. In the prison system, a kite is a note or a written message used for communication between inmates or between inmate and staff. And it can be a request for services like medical care or to be removed or moved to a different housing unit. The term likely comes from the practice of attaching a note to a string and flying it under a cell door to a neighboring cell or from one tier to another tier, and resembles a kite. So think of a little note folded up with a string. Whatever they get the string, you can use your imagination, like shredding little pieces of bed sheets, tying them all together and making a long kite like string. That is what the corrections officer, again, my friend who works at Walla Walla State Penitentiary, told me the actual note is called. It's not a formal request. It's a note that they want to speak with someone to get services, medical, get moved, something to another area. And then they fill out an actual form. But the first note that's handed is called a kite. It doesn't matter if it's going from inmate to inmate or inmate to corrections officer, CO. Next one. I bet you're a fan of that traitor Yusuf Islam as well. Absolutely no context to the video that this comment was actually left on. Yusuf Islam, that is Cat Stevens, the singer-songwriter Cat Stevens. He changed his name, for quite a few years to Yusuf Islam. And during the first Iraq invasion, Desert Storm, He was actually banned and put on the no-fly list. So America was winning the war against singer-songwriters back then. He's since been removed from the no-fly list once they realized who the hell Yusuf Islam was. They say it was a mistake, but I don't see how he was a traitor at all. I don't get that context. There's a lot of people out there that that will make up a list of different things. And I've seen them on Facebook, Instagram. I've actually seen videos on YouTube as well that say that all of these things were caused, and committed by people who are Muslim. I'm here, ladies and gentlemen, to be the first one. If you're not aware of this, you can make up a list. I mean, I don't care if if you start with the Beirut bombing all the way down to the 9/11 attack, everything else. You add it all up and you say that is the Muslims they were Muslims who did it. Far more people have been killed in the name of Christianity than any other religion ever in the history of mankind. There is no debating that. Terrorist attacks, bombings, all kinds of things, killings, beheadings, you name it. Genocide has all been done in the name of Christianity. People who are, of Muslim faith, and I have friends who are, of the Muslim faith. They don't want to harm anyone else, anything over any other religion. The one religion that scares me the most is the Church of Latter-day Saints. They scare the living shit out of me because I know them and I'm surrounded by them. And the things that they will do in the background to, destroy people they don't like or they've kicked out of their church, and they'll destroy them, financially, emotionally, spiritually, every way they can, but don't fear that, someone who's just because they're a Muslim or of a different religion than you. And he's not a traitor. He moved out of the country. He lives in I believe Wales or London now. Good for him. I've happened to like his music. Am I a fan? Yeah, of course I'm a fan. I mean, why would you not be, a fan of Father and Son, the song? I think it's a great song. But again, stop with the hate of one religion over another. It doesn't look good on you at all. All right. Now to the last one. I have to reach over because there are three of them for this one. The last one, the question that was left as a comment is question mark. Was there a murder at CAB, C-A-B, then hyphen C, capital C, A-P, place? The context of that was left on a poll that I post to the community tab. Was there a murder at CAB, hyphen, CAP, place? Well, are you talking about was there a murder at Cabela's, the sporting goods store? I don't know. Are you talking about a capybara? I don't know. Or maybe you're talking about Miggy Cabral. Maybe you're talking about was there a murder at his house? I don't know. I have no clue what the actual context to your question was. So thank you again to everyone who sent or posted comments and everything else. Now I'm going to do some harmless self-promotion. There's not enough of you out there currently who have purchased a coffee mug from me. I know maybe you don't drink coffee. Maybe you drink tea. You can still use the same mug for coffee or for tea. They're microwave safe. They're less than $25 a piece. Plus shipping is based on how far your address is from the actual factory where they're manufactured and printed. And they do ship internationally. Now, maybe you say to yourself, Well, I don't drink coffee or tea. I drink, whiskey. You can drink whiskey out of this. Heck, you can use these mugs for other things as well. How about you use it as a coin jar? Maybe you want to use something to hold your pencils and pens. The same mug can be used for that. Maybe what you need is some place to organize all the stuff that is in that junk drawer. So you got some change in there, some pens, and then you have some gift cards. They all fit inside the mug. Again, the link is in the description right now today. And you can, again, the mug is less than $25 and it ships internationally. So, again, check out in the description below for a live clickable link to the merch store where you can purchase yourself a mug. Good morning, Francie. Tom Baker. Good morning. Super Chat Cat. Good morning. Scrolling up through the questions and comments here. They are called kites in most prisons and jails. I've personally read hundreds of them. They also go to their defense attorney. Yes, very true, Gala. I had someone that obviously that person, but wasn't the only person in who commented on the Brian Kohlberger video that I was full of shit and I didn't know anything about, what that piece of paper was called, and a kite is, again, from inmate to inmate only. And I was like, what? Because I mean, before I make any video at all, or even this live stream, I verify, with at least 3 sources everything that I'm going to talk about, because I don't want to be that individual who just shows up online and rehashes the news for you without checking on it to see if it's factual. So I didn't know what it was called. I've never been in prison. I've never been in jail. I mean, in the last 25 years, I got a parking ticket and I should have fought that parking ticket, but I didn't. I just paid it. But I don't know what to tell people. A lot of people think that I've been in prison or jail. I haven't. I just study a lot about it and read about it, and ask questions. How else are you supposed to learn in this world? Mm. Well, if I missed anyone that else besides Francie and Tom Baker, if I didn't say hello, I am truly sorry. Our homeless shelters are begging for more coffee mugs. Really? I wish I would have known that. I just got rid of probably 40 coffee mugs. None of them are, from my YouTube channel, but and these are in line. In case you're wondering, this is the first coffee mug that I ever had made. Oops. It said, "You stay safe out there," and then the channel name. Then I did this one long before Scott Reich ever started using the thumbprint. It's just a pixel picture that you can get download online. But that was the second one. Then this was the third one, and these are the ones that are available right now in white and in black, solid black inside and outside. With the are stay safe out there, and 411 now on the back side. But again, there's 2 different ones on there. This one and the all black one. What's up next in the streams? Which cases? Well, tomorrow night, Tom, Sunday night, we play live trivia tomorrow night. We're not done though. We're not done with this. We still have truth or fact or fake still. So don't go anywhere. That's just that part of it. Of the questions, the comments, blunders, balderdash, and questions. We still have fact or fake news still in this stream. But I thought I would pay attention to some of the comments for it was getting away. Then people think that I'm ignoring them. I'm not ignoring them. I was just trying to keep on track here. But Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. Will, did you hear Mommy Ramblings won the lawsuit against her by one of her hater channels for taking down 6 of their videos due to copyright? No, I did not hear that. That's good. Good for Mommy Ramblings, I guess. I didn't even know about the lawsuits. Francie, for breakfast, I have no idea what I'm having for breakfast. All right. I am not a cyborg. At least I don't think I am. Fact or fake news? There can only be one real story. Can you find the real one before it's too late? I'm going to read you 3 stories, A, B, and C. Story A, story B, and story C. Your job is to pick out which one is real. One of them is real and the other 2 are fake. You don't need to tell anybody, which one is fake. Just pick out the real story. Story number 1. Excuse me. A library book was returned after nearly 82 years after it was borrowed from the San Antonio Public Library. It came with a letter noting that grandma won't be able to pay for it anymore. Is this the real story or is this one of the fake stories? Again, your job is to only pick out the real story. One of these is real and the other 2 are fake. Story number 2, a library book as well, has been returned after nearly 106 years after it was borrowed from the Seattle Public Library. It came with a letter noting, I don't read French, so here is the book. My grandfather checked it out and he didn't read French either. Not sure why he checked it out. Is this the real story or is this a fake story? One of them is real. Again, story number 3. A library book has been returned nearly 74 years after it was borrowed from the St. Paul, Minnesota Library on Hennepin Avenue branch. It came with a letter explaining, I'm retiring to Florida next month, so you can have it back now. One of these stories is real. Every one of these stories, the fake ones and the real ones, were all shared at least 100,000 times online on different avenues, either Facebook, maybe Facebook and X, or it was shared on Reddit. But each one has been shared at least 100,000 times and passed off as a real story. Only one of them is real and has factual evidence backing it up. Again, your job is to pick out the real one. Is it story 1, 2, or 3? Now I'll give you a minute or 2 to think about which one you think is the real story. 1, 2, or 3. Smoke them if you got them. Or don't. Let's just hate me, for the fact that I am. Whichever. One, two, or three. Which one is the real story? We got Francie, thinks it's one. Tom Baker. Kitty Q is going with one. Catalisa, three. One of them is real, and the other two are completely fake. That's why you need to check your sources, where you get your news. I'm not affiliated with Ground News, but if you've ever heard of Ground News or checked out Ground News, you really should, because you'll learn a lot about where the sources of the stories you're being told are coming from, the left or the right, or are they more central? A, B, or C? And the correct answer this week is story A. Story number one is the real story. The library book that was checked out after 82 years, and it was accompanied with a note that said, Grandma won't be able to pay for it anymore. That is the real story for this week. Story number one. 82 years. The best one that almost fooled me was the one about the book that was checked out from the library in Minnesota. But in the actual article itself, that if you clicked on the link, it actually said St. Paul, Minnesota Library, and on Hennepin Avenue. Hennepin Avenue is in Minneapolis. That is because I've lived there. I know the area like the back of my hand. I know where that library is. I mean, but that one almost got me because it actually gave the address for that Hennepin Avenue library, and I was just like, it almost got me. It almost did, and that's the one that I clicked on and actually took notes of, and that's what led me to the real story about the book that was checked out 82 years prior. And along with the letter that said, Grandma can't pay for this anymore. But a fake story led me to the real story. I won $1,000. I'll go to Las Vegas. My friends are in Las Vegas right now, Tom. They are staying at the Bellagio. They're leaving, I think, Sunday night. But they don't gamble much. They go down to the raceway, the Las Vegas International Raceway, or they go down to watch shows, concerts, and stuff like that. They're not big into gambling. They might throw like $50 into like a slot machine, and then they're done. But they like to go there because it's cheap accommodations, and they get comped a lot of stuff for being there, so they like it. I sure was looking at C at first. Yeah, they get you again. A fake story is what led me to the real story because I wanted to see if the whoever wrote that article, and if it wasn't for the fact that it said St. Paul, Minnesota, and then Hennepin Avenue, and then gave the address for the library there, and I was just like, maybe the whoever wrote this is not from the area and didn't know that the Hennepin Avenue is the city runs this way, Hennepin Avenue runs this way through Minneapolis. Oh, but I was like, maybe they just didn't. They made that mistake and they put the wrong address in there. I mean, it could happen. Oh, I wish it was at the Bellagio right now. They have fun. I haven't been to Las Vegas since my grandmother passed away. She worked at the Circus ticket booth for shows, selling tickets to shows at the Circus. She worked there 42 years, I think it was. But she lived in McLaughlin. She didn't live in Las Vegas itself. But God rest her soul, but she passed. But we used to go down every year and see her, and then hit the buffets and stuff like that. Cheap eating, but I'm not much of a gambler. I mean, in that aspect of like spending money to gamble, I gamble in other ways. I think we all do. Gamble somewhat. Hey, you know what? I really like Twinkies. I know they're bad for me. You're gambling with your health by eating a Twinkie. But hey, they're shelf stable. They'll outlive us all. The Twinkie will. You've never been to the States, Tom Baker? Well, you should do it. There's a story on Facebook about a couple found after decades at sea. I think it's untrue. Travel to the US. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. Yeah, we fight over politics and things are like on a pendulum. They either swing way too far this way or they swing way too right, the other direction. But yeah, that's just life, though. If you look at history, things always are like, we want it in the middle, but it never is. It's always, of one side is fighting more than the other side to move everything in their direction. I watch U.S. walking tours on YouTube. Well, we have a walking tour that takes place right here in my town. It doesn't happen anywhere near my home, but in our town, every single street is named after a different scientist or a different event around the the building of the atomic bomb, and then the scientists behind that, and the actual production of plutonium, and then World War II. I mean, every town, I mean, every street. Yeah, I mean, we have streets here that are atomic, or the Oppenheimer Street, or you name it, after different people, around that area. Cold War, but it's a walking tour, and they stop by. Not only do they tell you about the street, and every street has a like a bronze plaque that is below the street sign that tells you about the street and who it's named after. But then they go through a walking tour of like the different alphabet houses. If you're not familiar with an alphabet house is, we have A houses, B houses, C houses, D houses, G, F, and then after F, then they're prefab one, prefab two, prefab three, and then there are those are the houses that the average Joe, the average worker who was building the nuclear bomb and the reactors and stuff like that, they lived in those. Then there are the homes that were built just for the army and the generals, and those who were in the higher parts of the army itself, and they live in a completely different part of town, all by themselves, and they're not alphabet houses, they're numbered houses. I think they start at number 11 through 17. So it's like not just 11. This is house 11. This is house 12. This is house 13. No, that's the floor plan of each place. So an A house, there's probably 80 A houses, and there are some that are exactly the way they were built in 1944. The outside, the inside, everything is exactly, and it's like a walking tour. You can it's an open museum. You walk through the house and you see how it looked in 1944, from everything down to the doorknobs to the giant space heater. They gave you one space heater for a 2-story house, so it's actually pretty cool. And then we have a walking tour here also of what's called White Bluffs. That is where there was a town here, and then they moved everybody here to where we are now. And the reason why they moved them out of White Bluffs is because it was too close to the nuclear reactors where they were. The centrifuges were to enrich the uranium to, for the atomic bomb. It's actually pretty cool. Many Americans visit Brussels and meet them every day. Hmm. Love those big RVs. A lot of RVs in America. You know, have you ever seen the movie Paul with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, where they get in an RV and of course they end up meeting an alien in that movie. That's what Paul is. Paul is an alien, but Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, you know, they go on this tour across America in an RV and the shenanigans that they get involved in. I love. I'm a big fan of like British comedy. Everything like everybody. I'm sure everybody here in the comment section knows who Mr. Bean is. Roland Atkins. As Mr. Bean. But I mean, there's so much more in his catalog of movies and TV series, is everything from Black Adder onward. That he did before Mr. Bean. And then there was like spin-offs of Black's plays from the Black Adders, people who were in Black Adder. John Lithgow, Shaun of the Dead. That's a classic. Me and my wife collect zombie flicks, good ones and bad ones. Ones that went straight to DVD, never even made it to the movie theaters, and other ones that are where they're high budget films like Shaun of the Dead. They got to meet George Romero, one of their the icons of the zombie genre. Also love the YouTube channels that visit film locations. Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, I know what you meant though. The channel Reshoots just visited the Death Wish filming location, so that'd be cool. Death Wish, that'd be what? The Harvey Keitel? Was that Death Wish? Harvey Keitel? Also famous for Pulp Fiction. Death Wish. I'd like to see the car. That'd be cool. Played Sasquatch and Harry and Henderson's. Long time ago. Yep. 1974 comparison to 2025. That'd be cool. I actually worked at Rancho San Diego nuclear plant way back when it's been closed decades, and it's still being decommissioned today. Same here, Gala. But in my area, we had a total of five completed nuclear plants. One never got finished and it never had any the isotope in it for to be able to make electricity. And then we had two facilities here that were just for making medical isotopes, which are just a little tiny suckers that are used in radiation chemotherapy. But they made medical isotopes, and it's going to be hundreds of years before they ever decontaminate the area. A lot of the buildings are gone, but now all the sand and the dirt and everything else, and the below ground tanks and everything else where they stored everything. I get it. You learned Death Watch. He played a serial killer in Dexter. Is it true that Dexter's coming back or is back? I saw something about that. Charles Bronson was in Death Watch. I liked some of Charles Bronson's movies. I was more of a Dirty Harry fan though. Clint Eastwood is, go ahead, sucker. Make my day. Tell me, punk, do you feel lucky? Yeah, Dexter is huge this season, so it is back. That's cool. I saw something, a blip about that. The reason why and why you said Dexter reminded me of tomorrow night's trivia. So tomorrow night's trivia, for those that want to know and want to stop in and play live trivia tomorrow night, at again, it's at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock East Coast, or 12 midnight in the UK. We are going to be doing trivia about the 1991 yogurt shop murders. The 1991 yogurt shop murders. The murders took place at, I can't believe it's yogurt. 4 victims were murdered in a yogurt shop in 1991 in Austin, Texas. And that is tomorrow. Now, how does that connect with Dexter and with, all that? Is because there is currently, if you want to watch, I believe it might be more than one part, but it is currently on HBO right now, the Yogurt Shop Murders. So there's a documentary. It's on HBO right now. So about the same thing. It just happened to be coincidence. I finished up this trivia night 3 weeks ago, and I guess it came out like the beginning of August. The documentary, I had no idea, but anyways. But if you want to watch that, or if you want to brush up on, read about it a little bit before tomorrow night, again, the 1991 yogurt shop murders in Austin, Texas. Is Travis Decker still on the run? I can Google it. Yes, Francie, he has not been apprehended. New additional things will be out in a video that you'll see tomorrow. But since we're talking about it, and you brought it up, the law enforcement has closed off certain areas outside of Icicle Creek, which is near Leavenworth, between Leavenworth and Wenatchee, where they believe there is a better chance that he may be hiding out in that Blewett National Forest area. So they've closed these extended campground areas. So where his truck was found was not in an actual campground, like a KOA where you pull in and they have a nice little paved spot for you to park. His truck was found in what's called a rugged camping spot. It's basically they bulldoze a little area, enough for you to pull a vehicle in, or camper. You can't tent camp in these areas, but they've closed these outer areas off because that's where they're going to be, putting more of a manhunt focus here coming up. It's actually taking place right now as we speak about this. But as of today, this morning, because I checked it, this morning like I do every morning, he has still not been apprehended. So, but of course, he could be anywhere too. He could have gotten hidden in someone's camper or boat, underneath the cover, and then snuck out of the area. We don't know. He could be anywhere, or he could be dead. 200 yards away from where he killed his daughters. We don't know. And that's the thing, is I just can't express just how thick of an underbrush in this area where all this took place. It is so thick you could walk past him, 20 times and never see him. I mean, because the briar brushes and and the blackberry bushes and stuff that are in season right now, and the growth, it just blooms like crazy, and you would never see anything sitting even that far away. 100 yards, 200 yards away, walk right by it all day long, you never see it, especially a body that's not moving. They do, Peppadot. They do need to catch him. Did anyone watch the Wayne Henley interview? I haven't watched it yet. No, I have not. And that's on the Wayne Henley interview is on Netflix. You can watch that. It should be, go to Netflix right now and type in Wayne Henley, and you should be able to watch that. If you're not familiar who Wayne Henley is, maybe Google that first. But he was the man who helped was it the Candyman? He was his accomplice, luring victims to him, to Dean Coral. Gail has been watching the Donna Alderson trial. No, I haven't. I haven't watched it, Pippa. Is that the Candyman murders? Yep, Tom Baker. Dean Coral, the Candyman. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up this morning's Blunders, Balderdash, and questions. If you're watching this afterwards, and if you have a question, put it in the comment section. I'll go through everyone's comments that were here today. Now, please, again, understand, I do not have the control over if it shows the comments after the stream. Sometimes YouTube shows them. Sometimes YouTube decides, nope, the comments during the live stream are gone. That's not me. It's not any creator that I know of that can do that, because I've gone through every setting I can possibly find, and I can't find it anywhere to be able to turn it on and turn it off. But I want to thank everyone for being here this morning for Blunders, Balderdash, and questions. Again, if you like this, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I hope that you would, consider subscribing. Check out more of my content. Make up your mind after watching some more of my videos. But again, thank you everyone for being here, and I hope that everyone has a terrific day today. If I don't see you, tomorrow for trivia night, again, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Central, 7 p.m. in the Eastern time zone, and that's 12 midnight in the UK. But again, you all have a great day today. Bye.